The mysterious death of Jimi Hendrix.
Do you know who Jimi Hendrix was? Well, Jimi Hendrix was one of the biggest rock musicians to ever exist, being the guitarist and singer of the band The Jimi Hendrix Experience, and had his musical career launched since 1967 until a few years later when his tragic death happened in 1970. Jimmy at the time was the biggest artist out there, not only for his music but because of the social and political messages he displayed against war and racism, and his message that love is the answer to everything. Do you know how he died? Well, the official version of his death says that in September 17th of 1970, he spent a long night with his girlfriend Monica Denham, in which he drank wine. When they arrived at her apartment at 7 a.m., they both went to sleep. Monica woke up at 11 a.m. and found Jimmy breathing but unconscious and unresponsive. She called an ambulance, and an hour later, he was pronounced dead in the hospital. Actually, further investigation showed that Jimmy had taken several sleeping tablets, which made him asphyxiate with his own vomit, making his death seem like an accident. Inconsistencies in his death. Monica claims that she woke up at 11 o'clock, but the ambulance wasn't called up until 11:18. Monica has also made several different stories on how it all happened, and most of them don't correlate with each other. Some have even been disproved by the ambulance that arrived at the apartment. Something that is also suspicious is that when the ambulance came, it was obvious by the looks of Jimmy that he had been dead for at least a couple of hours. Another fact to add is that when the police and ambulance arrived, Monica was nowhere to be seen and didn't accompany Jimmy to the hospital despite her claims.
Starting off with husband theory. Jimmy, being the biggest, most famous rock star at the time, assisted to a lot of parties in which lots of women would approach him and flirt with him. One theory claims that one of the husbands of these women killed Jimmy because of his jealousy, even if there's little proof to support this. Next up is the FBI. With America's socio-political state in the 1970s being so chaotic, it is reasonable to expect people to believe Jimmy's death to be related with the government. Hendrix, being a black man, always stood up for the racism and discrimination of his people and used his influence to spread awareness to the meaningless wars and oppression coming from those in power. That is why it is not unreasonable to think that he will be a target of the FBI, as so were a lot of political activists. Finally, there's the manager theory. James Wright was one of Hendrix's assistants and friends and spent a lot of time with him and the band. In 2009, James claimed that Jimmy's manager, Michael Jeffrey, was the one that murdered Jimmy. This theory has a lot of support, since it was no secret that Jeffrey didn't treat Jimmy fairly and often took advantage of his inexperience in the music business. Since Jeffrey took a huge cut out of Jimmy's earnings, Jimmy was planning on firing him, and not soon after, Jimmy mysteriously died, making Jeffrey a lot of money because of the life insurance and music of the artist. To further support this theory, it is said that Monica and Jeffrey were working together, which would make a lot of sense as to how it all happened. To this day, this is the most popular and possible theory as to why Jimmy died like he did. Sadly, it seems we won't get more closure from Jeffrey or Monica, since both have passed away in recent years.